Hi, everybody, and welcome to Articulate Thursdays. I am your host, the mild-mannered community development specialist, Nabil. Always happy to be joined by the wonderful Tanya. Tanya, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm great. Hi, everyone.
Yes, and today we got a very exciting show for you guys. We're bringing the Moccasin Trails to you at the comforts of your own home. We're going to do a virtual trail of the Moccasin Trails here in Oakville, and along the way, just share some history that you might otherwise not be aware of, but you should be, and sort of just share some of the wonderful history that many people might not know. But before we do any of that, Tanya, would you do us the honors of the land acknowledgement?
Absolutely. So, Halton and Oakville, as we know it today, is rich in the history and modern traditions of many First Nations and the Métis. From the lands of the Anishinaabe to the Attawandaron, the Haudenosaunee, and the Métis, these lands surrounding the Great Lakes are steeped in Indigenous history. As we gather today, virtually, on these lands, we are in solidarity with our Indigenous brothers and sisters to honor and respect the four directions, lands, waters, plants, animals, and ancestors that walked before us, and all of the wonderful elements of creation that exist. We acknowledge and thank the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation for being stewards of this traditional territory.
Thank you so much for that, Tanya. And I think it's a great way to begin our Moccasin Trail. So, Tanya, do you want to just walk us through a little bit of the history, of the geography of what it is that we're talking about today?
Sure. And I also want to mention that June is National Indigenous History Month, and this past Sunday was National Indigenous Peoples Day. So with those thoughts, Nabil and I thought it would be great to talk about the Indigenous history in Oakville that we have learned through meeting people and learning new things about Oakville or what came before Oakville. And so on this map here, which we were able to get from the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation website, which has lots of information. So please do reference that website for more information. This just gives you a quick snapshot of the traditional lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, which also includes the lake water. So it's quite a large swath of land. And then the next slide, closer, narrowing in here, I wanted to show you the treaty land. So Oakville is on Treaty 22, and those are the yellow swaths of land, of highlighted land that you see there. And they're at the mouth of the 16-Mile Creek and the 12-Mile Creek, or as we know it, Bronte Creek. Thank you, Nabil, for circling them. So those are the areas of land that are part of the treaty that still exists today. And so the next slide gives you a very brief history. And I take my information from events that I go to in Oakville where people come and speak about the history. And this was a presentation that I went to that was led by Kim Fullerton, who is a barrister in Oakville. And this was in a presentation that he did in November 2018 at Queen Elizabeth Park Community and Cultural Center, talking about the treaties. So this is just a snapshot to give you a sense of how we came to be where we are. So between 1820 and 1847, the British Crown took the lands and sold them to settlers. One of those settlers in 1827 was Colonel William Chisholm. So you may be familiar with this name, and it's connected to the Ercles estate on Navy Street down by the 16-Mile Creek in the harbor. And so he purchased land and developed a shipbuilding yard. And so Oakville, the town, developed from that point. In 1847, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation relocated to where they are today near Hagersville. And this was land that the Six Nations offered to the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation to settle on. And there's a whole history about how that came to be that I'm not going to go into great detail. But interestingly, and this is most recently, on May 28th, 2018, the claim for Treaty 22 and 23 was submitted to the governments of Canada and Ontario. And the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation is currently in negotiations right now on how to proceed to these land claims. So that just gives you a sense of where we are now and where we came from.
Right, and I think it's absolutely critical to acknowledge that, before Oakville, the great town of Oakville there was something beyond it, right? There was something that was rich in tradition, rich in culture, rich in history, and rich in knowledge. And I think it'd be, unfair for us not to talk about that. And so hopefully we're shedding just a little bit of light on the rich history and the rich culture of the Mississaugas of the Credit, and hopefully through the virtual tour that we're about to participate, you can join us on that and gain some insights and understand history as it happened, not as it sometimes is always told. So, Tanya?
Yeah, so in the past couple of years, Oakville has developed 2 heritage trails into Moccasin Trails. One of these trails is located along Bronte Creek, or the 12-mile river, and the other trail is along the 16-mile creek. And so what we've done over the past few years is we will take groups along these trails on a guided tour, and with an Indigenous educator. Stephen Paquette has been someone who I've worked with in the community, who is an Indigenous educator and has led these guided tours, which are really informative and a lot of fun and very interesting. So I highly recommend that if you see this opportunity in the brochure or on a poster, do follow up and join us. These trails are also used by the Oakville Community Foundation's community classrooms. So school groups go on this trail and learn about the Indigenous history in our area. So the Moccasin Trails feature 13 plaques that contain Indigenous stories, verses, and information that relate to the land, the water, and the sky. And they just give us a deeper understanding of Indigenous heritage. So these plaques were developed in partnership with the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and other Indigenous community members. So here's a photo of Stephen Paquette leading a tour. So all of these snapshots are from various tours. Some of them are different times of the year, in the fall or in the summer, where we go with a group of people and we walk through the trail together. And so today, Nabil and I thought we would take all of you on a virtual trail tour through and read the plaques and look at them. But I highly recommend that you go out on your own and also be in nature while you're reading these, because it's quite a lovely experience. The other part is that the Moccasin Trails were also funded through the Oakville Community Foundation through a Canada 150 grant. So that was another part of that. All right, so here we go. Imagine we are out in nature and there's trees all around us, and the creek, you can hear the rippling of the creek as we're standing here as a group in front of the first plaque.
Perfect. So I'll take a go. So the Moccasin Trail. In the tradition of the Anishinaabe, the original people, and the Haudenosaunee, people of the Longhouse, and this inspiration journey follows the elements of their traditional teachings and Thanksgiving address, in which we acknowledge and express our collective appreciation for what the creation provides for us. As you contemplate the meaning of these passages, search the environment with all your sense and heart to discover your own connection to the wisdom and beauty of nature. In addition to the Creator and His Spirit helpers, both the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee, as do many First Nations, give thanks for the people, Mother Earth, water, plant life, fruits, medicines, fish, trees, birds, four winds, grandfather, thunder, elder brother, the sun, grandmother, moon, and the stars. Follow the trail ahead to discover the traditional teachings of the Anishinaabe and passages of Thanksgiving address of people of the Longhouse. Let's go to the next one. Tanya?
Yeah, so the people. And just so that you know, all of the drawings that accompany these plaques were done by Rick Hill for these trails. So the people. We gather our minds as one, and we give greetings and thanks to one another that we are gathered here in good health and in peace. For all of us, for all of this, let us have this in our minds. Let us gather our minds and hearts together in a good way and acknowledge each other as brothers and sisters. Let us acknowledge the ancestors in the four directions and those spirits still to come.
How appropriate is this given the circumstances and the social environment, that we find ourselves in, right?
Absolutely.
Mother Earth, we gather our minds as one to greet and give thanks to our Mother Earth. She supports us as we walk about and provides all that we need to be happy and healthy. For all of this, let us have this in our minds. We acknowledge and give thanks to Mother Earth, she who creates life and provides all that we need. She nourishes all the people without judgment. We remember always walk gently upon her.
Important things to consider. Water. We gather our minds as one and turn to the rivers, lakes, ponds, and streams of our world. They are the lifeblood of our Mother Earth and provides refreshment for all that lives. For all of this, let us have this in our minds. Let us acknowledge and give thanks to the waters. Let us always remember that water is sacred. Water is medicine. Water is life. Let us also acknowledge and give thanks to the carriers of those medicine teachings, the women.
Plants. We gather our minds as one and give thanks to the plant life. They provide the energy and medicine to sustain our lives. We especially thank corn, beans, and squash, our life sustainers. For all of this, let us have plants in our minds. Let us acknowledge and give thanks to the plant life, that gift born of earth, sun, and water, that which nourishes and heals our bodies.
Medicines. We gather our minds as one and give thanks to the medicine plants. We especially thank the wild strawberry that provides us with its medicine in the spring. For all of this, let us have this in our minds. Let us acknowledge and give thanks for the many medicines which nourish and heal our bodies, our minds, our hearts, and our spirits, all without judgment. We acknowledge the gift of the strawberry as a healing medicine that reminds us of forgiveness and peace. And now is strawberry season.
Right, how appropriate.
Yeah.
Fish. We put our minds together as one and give thanks to the fish. They provide us with nourishment and keep the waters clean. For all of this, let us have this in our minds. Let us acknowledge and give thanks for the finned ones, who watch the sky and have knowledge of the sun, the stars and the moon, and as such hold and understand these teachings.
Animals, birds. We gather our minds together as one and give thanks to the animals and the birds. The animals provide us with food, furs, and bones for tools. The deer is the leader of the animals. The birds uplift our minds when we see their colorful feathers and hear their beautiful songs. The eagle is the leader of the birds. For all of this, let us have this in our minds. Let us acknowledge and give thanks for the four-legged and the feathered ones, our brothers and sisters in spirit. Let us give thanks for their teachings, their beauty, and for all they offer so that we may exist.
Trees. We gather our minds as one and give thanks to the trees for providing us with warmth and wood to build our homes. The sugar maple is the leader of the trees and provides us with the sweet water medicine in the spring. For all of this, let us have this in our minds. Let us acknowledge and give thanks for the trees, that which allows us to build our lodges and cleans the air. Let us acknowledge and give thanks to them for the medicine they share and the warmth they provide.
Four winds. We gather our minds together as one and give thanks to the four winds. They bring the change in the seasons and provide the warm winds of the summer. For all of this, let us have this in our minds. Let us acknowledge the four winds upon which we hear the voices of the ancestors and the Creator, whose breath gives life to all of the world.
Our grandfather Thunder. We gather our minds together as one and give thanks to our grandfather Thunder. With his thunder helpers, he cleanses the air and refreshes the waters, keeping disease and famine away. For all of this, let us have this in our minds. Let us acknowledge and give thanks to the Thunderbirds, so powerful as not to be seen but felt in the air to our very core. They bring us that gift of medicine through rain, to cleanse Mother Earth and to always watch over the Anishinaabe.
Elder brother the sun, grandmother moon. We gather our minds together as one and give thanks to our eldest brother the sun and our grandmother moon. The sun looks after us in the daylight and warms the earth. The grandmother moon sends the dew to the plants at night and regulates childbirth. For all of this, let us have this in our minds. Let us acknowledge and give thanks to the sun, who greets us each day with love and reminds us of the path we need to follow, the source of all fires, and reminds us of the light that lies within each of us. Let us acknowledge and give thanks to Grandmother Moon, who watches over her daughter, Mother Earth, and watches over all throughout the night, reminding us of the cycle of life with the gift of the 13 moon teachings.
The stars. We gather our minds together as one and give thanks to the stars. They provide us with direction and makes it so we are never alone at night. They also help to bring the dew to the plants so they can grow. For all of this, let us have this in our minds. Let us acknowledge and give thanks to our distant relation, the stars. Our relations that have guided us since the beginning and remind us that we are never alone. Those are the 13 plaques that are part of the Moccasin Trail. I think, Tanya, any reflections? But for me, as I was reading this, you know, I really appreciate how holistic it is in its remembrance, in its reflection about not just us, but we are part of a larger collective, part of society, part of Mother Earth, and you know, if we transgress some of those bounds, you see what happens, right? You see how deforestation or a lot of the challenges that we see within our environment, global warming, all those things. You know, just going through these 13 slides just reminds me that for us to be complete, we have to have this holistic understanding of ourselves, and it's not just an individual; it's a collective, and how you interact with the environment, how you interact with people. So it's truly powerful, and it was really, really powerful for me just to read it, to have you read it, and sort of just experience the calming nature of when we just reflect on the things around us. I don't know if you had similar reflections.
Yes, I've been on numerous trail walks where we read these plaques in groups and we're out in nature. But there was something quite lovely about the two of us reading together that I felt was quite powerful. It's also quite poignant to reflect on all of these teachings, especially right now during the pandemic as well. And my hope is that we will take these teachings and apply them to the future and how we move forward. You know, now we're in stage 2 of recovery and how we recover from the pandemic. I just hope that they are thoughts or reflections that we can carry with us. So know that you can go at any time on a trail walk along the 16-mile or along the 12-mile creek, and read these in nature. To access the 16-mile creek, the best point of entry would be at Lyons Valley. So if you park down in the parking lot or walk there, take the trail along there. And then the trail along Bronte Creek is at the corner of Mississauga Street and Rebecca. So you will see a kiosk, and that's the entry point. And then you can start your walk from there. Now, I just wanted to also just share with everyone a few other projects or events that the town has been part of. So Oakville does have a partnership on truth and reconciliation. And there's many different community partners and members that are part of this group that put public lectures and events together that are called Vital Conversations. So you may have seen these. This has been going on now for a couple of years. Town council, when they meet, they always do a land acknowledgement. There are land acknowledgement banners that are permanently up at Town Hall in the North Atrium, and these are also brought to other events around town. The Mississauga of the Credit First Nations flag is permanently at Town Hall. So next time you're at Town Hall, you'll see the 4 flagpoles, and one of them is the Mississauga's flag. That was put up last year around this time. Town Hall, we are in the process of naming our community rooms. These are meeting rooms that will have Indigenous names and other teachings that go with them. The Moccasin Trails, which we just took you on today. And most recently, at the end of February, there was a wampum belt exchange with the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation that happened at Oakville Museum. So that was a very important event.
Absolutely. And I think it's really critical that we understand that Indigenous culture, Indigenous history, Indigenous peoples are a big part of Canada, and the fact that many might not know the history. I can speak to, as an immigrant coming to Canada, these are things that we need to be aware of, right? And sometimes we have to take it upon ourselves to learn about the rich culture and rich history of our Indigenous peoples that were here, because there's just so much to learn. There's so much to acknowledge. Take a moment to reflect and learn about the Indigenous history that exists in not just Oakville, but throughout Canada, because it is truly going to be something. It's history, right? And it's rich in its culture, and it only enrich you as you learn more about it. Tanya, thank you once again for joining us today. This is Articulate Thursdays. Thanks everybody for watching. Take care.